MEP Jonathan Arnott. Mr. Arnott, why did you resign as General Secretary of UKIP?
Okay, so first of all, I fundamentally believe that it's important to be able to speak out when I think there's something wrong. And I think if you take on a role like General Secretary of a political party, that very much ties you in to the organisation, to the structures that you're involved with. And you try to speak out if something's wrong, you try to speak out internally, you try to talk to people in private, and if that doesn't work, then there comes a point when you have to say something publicly. But it's fundamentally incompatible to be able to say something publicly with doing an internal organisational role like being General Secretary. So in order to gain the freedom to be able to speak out on a lot of things that I think are wrong and do need to be changed, I had to resign as General Secretary.
How do you assess your performance and campaign on the general elections?
In terms of the party, I think the party did very badly in the general election. I think there's no two ways about that. I don't think you can defend that which is indefensible, quite frankly. And I think one of the reasons for that is that we've forgotten what UKIP's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a radical party that talks across a complete range of issues, that talks about things that matter to the average person on the street, the average working person, the person who wants to make their lives better for themselves. And we should be the party that's espousing all of those things, whether it's low tax, whether it's dealing with bureaucracy, whether it's making sure that parents have got somebody, that parents are getting the help that they need from the school system. There's a whole load of people out there who we really weren't speaking to properly at that election campaign. And then at the same time, the one place where the party was radical was in talking about issues surrounding Islam. Now, don't get me wrong, I personally very strongly believe that where there is extremism, that where there is that radical extremism, the ideology of ISIS, that society should leave no stone unturned in being as firm as possible to ensure that that cancer is rooted out of our society. But there's a huge difference between radical Islamic extremism and between all Islam or all Muslims. I think fundamentally that there was a loss of the way, a loss of understanding between that huge distinction. And I've always been proud, as a member of UKIP, when I've seen, those Muslims in UKIP who have traditionally been accepted with open arms by the party. And it just seems to me that the direction, and even just having the first time during an election campaign, the first policy announcement, being about things which were on this so-called integration agenda, and it just seemed to me to strike completely the wrong note. And I'm not saying that all of the drop in the polls was the result of that. I'm sure that some of it was.
Today we mark 1 year from Brexit. You didn't win any seats at the election. Your supporters are demanding proportional representation. Do you think Brexit was a mistake?
Absolutely not a mistake, no, but our supporters were demanding proportional representation, to be fair, at the last election as well, and that's simply a matter of democracy. UKIP, when UKIP is the party it should be, it is the party of direct democracy. We're the party not just of bringing power back to the people from Brussels to Westminster, but that's only half the job. The other half of the job is taking that power out of the hands of people in Westminster and putting it back in the hands of the British public where it belongs. And part of that is the first past the post system, a system which means that the vast majority of people in the UK aren't able to get what they want from their vote, and so then you do see an awful lot of tactical voting, and that's been seen as election after election, or you'll see people living in safe seats where the same party has had that one seat for 100 years. And if you don't believe the same as that one party in that seat for the last 100 years, you've not been able to make your voice heard in that democracy. So I think talking about things like proportional representation is very important, but it mustn't be used as an excuse for a very poor performance at a general election campaign. And it mustn't be the only thing. It's not the only way that you have to bring power back to the people in British politics. There's much, much more to it than that.
Now that the referendum is done, is UKIP job done? What's next for it?
Well, I think it's the same. It's the same question as before. If we actually talk about the range of issues that UKIP stands for, if we are that party of freedom, of independence, of democracy, of low taxation, the party that says that the state shouldn't be interfering in people's daily lives except when it absolutely has to, if we're the party that is championing those hard-working people who are so often abandoned and ignored by the system, if we're talking about controlling immigration, not to be an anti-immigration party. Of course, that's the last thing that we want to be, but we do want to be a party that talks about control, about making sure that the people who come to the UK are the people who are valuable people, the people who bring the skills that we need to make our country a better place. If we're the party that's talking about all these things, then of course there's a future for it. But we have to actually be talking about those things. And until we start doing that, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to make any headway. So what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to speak out about, is all of these issues and start saying that we need to be making sure that we get back to the party that we should be. And only if we do that can we truly be relevant in British politics post-Brexit.
Do you see yourself as UKIP's party leader?
No, I don't. I think that there are a lot of skills that maybe that I could bring to the party, but when I look at the party leadership, that needs to be somebody who's charismatic, who has abilities in terms of the social side of things, who's able to work with people in a way to be the person who can put that arm around the shoulder when it's needed, and to give the proverbial kicking when it's not. You need to be somebody who has got very, very strong interpersonal skills. So for me, I struggled to see a situation in which I would be the best leader for my party. I sincerely hope that there will come along somebody who will be talking about the kind of things that I am talking about here, and I sincerely hope that I don't find myself in the position of feeling forced into going for something like this.